For these Muslim women in the southern Philippines, weaving a malong is a sacred ritual, a tradition handed down from generation to generation, each piece telling a story. But despite the neat patterns, their recent history in this largely Christian nation has been a troubled one, with roots tracing back to an abandoned island military base hundreds of kilometers north, where 41 years ago, the government put together a team of young Muslim men whose secret mission was to take neighboring Sabah from Malaysia. Both countries have been claiming it as their own for decades. Their names are still on the walls. For most of them, this is the only testament that they were ever even really here. Some 200 men were brought here from Mindanao to train to be members of the Jabidah fighting team. Instead, they ended up massacred, and it was hoped that would be enough to erase all traces that they even existed. When the plot was discovered, the government tried to save face and denied there was such a plan. In the end, only less than 30 were accounted for as having been killed by their military trainers. No one was ultimately held responsible, though, and there's not been a real investigation. But it's still all too real to 68-year-old Jibin Arula, who survived to tell the tale. For Filipino Muslims, he's now a crucial part of their history, and what they call the Jabidah massacre is seen as a manifestation of how they've been exploited and maltreated. From this was born the clamor for secession.
I told my story to honor those that were killed. I didn't know it would lead to conflict. Otherwise, I would have kept silent.
Muslim armed groups were formed, and the ensuing 40-year conflict with government forces has kept Mindanao in poverty and left over 100,000 dead and even more displaced.
We have to enshrine and input into the minds of our children about this. They cannot afford to forget this incident because this is an assault and even insult to the dignity of the Bangsamoro people.
Within hearing distance of the guns, these Muslim children learn to live with uncertainty. They're also being taught something other Filipino students never are. The Jabidah incident isn't in official history books, which only broadens the misunderstanding between the faiths.
We cannot keep hiding it's a gaping wound actually. Up to now, it's still there, it's open. We have to confront this as Filipinos and to achieve closure of this very important episode.
Just kilometers from the school, construction on what's to be the largest mosque in the country has stopped. Builders have realized the foundation was laid at a slightly wrong angle. Like the peace talks between the armed groups and the government, now stalled yet again. But the feeling here is the fighting will only ever end once both sides face up to the events that sparked the conflict. Only then can the foundations to construct a solid peace finally be laid. Margo Ortigas, Al Jazeera, Mindanao, Southern Philippines.